up, Primo? How are you, man?
We are late.
We are. Yeah.
Was it about a minute?
2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 2 minutes. Well, you got a long intro there, so I got to count intro time, right? So yeah, I'll give us a try. I'll give us a cut on that one.
Dude.
What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? What, like, are we, is the world going to collapse? What, I mean, like, are we?
Sooner or later, yes. Could be Tuesday, could be Thursday, could be 100 years. Who knows?
I thought, and maybe I'm a little naive to this, is, the last show we did, we obviously came out and talked about the invasion and, Russia invading Ukraine. And, I thought maybe over this week you let it breathe, they come to some type of agreement, but this looks like it's just going to be the long haul here.
Are you saying that the world doesn't know how to handle insanity? Is that what we're coming to terms with here? Or should we have already learned?
Everybody's insane,
Right.
Everybody's insane except for us. We're the normal people.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. No, I remember looking at now it's DSM-5, the big Bible of psychological conditions. I remember reading through it and thinking, if people really took a catalog here, there'd be a lot of people worrying about themselves. So I'm glad that ignorance is sometimes bliss.
So listen, obviously we know since the last show, we talked about the initial invasion in Ukraine, and now, obviously things are escalating. You have all the sanctions that are put down from the US. You have other countries now that are getting involved. I think there's a lot of propaganda going back and forth. Russia saying they're winning, Ukraine saying they're winning. So it's like you're getting all this stream of information coming through, and you're trying to sift and filter through it as much as you can in yourself and make your own determination. I'm going to be flat out honest. I 100% backing Ukraine in this. 1,000%.
Yeah, I think that anybody that says, I obviously there's some people in China that I think are supported, but when you look back at the videos of them saying it, it's almost like you feel that's propaganda. This doesn't even feel real that they're saying it. I think that anytime anybody says there is an aggressor, I think that by nature, I think the world has grown enough that we kind of say we have to defend the defender, right? So I think that's just logic.
So kind of just to get everybody up to speed, I mean, I don't have to go into too many crazy details over it because I'm sure that everybody's seeing this 24 hours, a day right now and what's going on. But obviously we're now into a point where Russia is getting into some of the major cities. There's been some, I guess, a lot of foot soldier fighting, tanks and aircraft, boots on the ground. Ukraine is fighting like a motherfucker and really fighting back. I mean, what was it? That fighter jet pilot, I guess they call him like the ghost pilot. Yes. or something. Yes, and he took out like 6 tanks or something crazy. And
right. Yeah, it was crazy. I think they had some video or something. I remember seeing something that was showing that guy's ability. And it was just like, yeah, he's obviously a legend. I don't think they've even posted a picture of him though. Like, we don't know who.
I probably wouldn't do that right now.
Right. Well, if you're going to be the ghost, you might as well live up to it, right?
Yeah, right. So obviously you have, Russia still invading, coming in. People are being displaced. They're moving into other countries. Today there was supposedly a meeting, and forgive me, I forget what mutual country they met in.
Belarus, which is not really a mutual country. It's been, I think, basically a satellite country for Russia forever. So it's kind of like, it's almost like neutral ground that isn't neutral ground. So it is what it is.
So they tried to have a meeting, come to some kind of agreement. I guess that fell through. And Belarus, I say that right, I think now is siding with Russia. You had a couple of other countries come out today. Switzerland now is putting a lot of sanctions on Russia, not allowing them to get into bank accounts and shutting off basically their money supply. You see the ruble that's dropped 30% today as well.
I couldn't believe it hasn't dropped more. Like, they've really locked them out. Oh, you know what? I think the big thing that kept the ruble from really dropping was once they cut it off, Russia said you can't sell it. So they locked it out of the market and said, nothing. Yeah,
right?
so Lone Star right there. There you
Yeah,
go.
so
That
we got Lone Star Watch Collector in the comments saying Belarus is basically a puppet state. They meet at the border, and he also
Mhm.
says that Belarus literally means white Russians. So
Nice. Okay. I did. That's funny because I feel like I should have known that, and now I'm like, wow, I've never known that too. Especially if you do any Chernobyl studies, Belarus is like, is that still a lot of that state or that country is still highly irradiated from what happened in Chernobyl, which I
yeah,
think, yeah.
and I do want to talk about that as well. I think we'll go back to Chernobyl, but just getting kind of everybody caught the speed. So you have Belarus now joining with Russia. You have Switzerland going against Russia. You had, I believe, Brazil came out today and made a statement. They basically said they're going to stay normal, neutral for now. China definitely is going to back Russia. I guess they had made a announcement today, or secretly kind of saying they're going to back Russia. um, and this is getting crazy. And then Putin puts all his nuclear weapons on high alert, so that's a little scary. I wouldn't say a little scary, but a lot scary. And now it's going to start ramping up. And the scary thing about it is that we have to start coming to the reality: is this going to start World War III, or is a nuclear weapon going to be used?
Well, one other thing that you have to remember too is these Ukraine just applied for being part of the United Europe. Why can I not remember that name? What is
NATO?
it? European Union. Thank you.
Union.
Yeah, saying it all afternoon. And finally, I get on the thing here, and I'm going like blank. Old age, great, but yeah, the second that they got on, it was they posted up a picture of it, said they wanted to be part of the European Union. They sent it out. So, and of course, the other thing is Germany has showed support for them. Ukraine has actually gone out and said, what do you call it? That thanking the U.S. for the money that we're sending them, and in a lot of these, so they said an open thank you to both the U.S., UK, and then a couple other places. And now there are guys in the UK that are actually getting plane tickets to come over and join the Ukrainian army, and they have not been sent there. They're just getting on flights and flying over. And I'm sure it's not just the UK. They're coming from all other places to probably support the cause because their countries aren't. So like fully, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Lone Star saying that he doesn't think neither in any likelihood of World War III or nuclear war.
No.
I don't know, man. I may have to disagree on, if you're agreeing, I may have to disagree, because this is the way that I look at this.
Yep.
Putin comes in, he takes Ukraine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to move through Ukraine. Obviously, we know all the resources that they have there. What's to stop him to then moving into Poland or Germany? What's to stop him? Really? I mean, basically right now you have to look at this, and I hate to say this, all eyes are on him. He technically right now is the most powerful person in the world. He's controlling the world stage. You have the US kind of sitting here, kind of chomping at the bit, saying, should we get involved? No, we shouldn't. Should we get involved? No, we shouldn't. Because, and you have to keep this in mind, by law of the treaty, that if he does invade a NATO country, we will be involved in this war somehow.
Well, I think,
but really, what is to stop him at this point? I mean,
that the thing is he's not doing very well in the battle he's in right now, and that's so he comes in, he tries to take Kharkov, they fail miserably at that. They try to take Kyiv, which, by the way, I've been pronouncing that wrong because it's the old name that I've been pronouncing. They changed it. I called a friend over there, was like, hey, how do I pronounce this?
It's Kyiv. That's the Ukrainian way, I believe, to say it.
So I'm gonna start, because it's now a different spelling than I was used to. But yeah, so that was they try to take Kyiv. They do an awful job of that 3 or 4 nights in a row. My friend messages me and says, we heard a lot of explosions tonight when they hit the oil refinery. He says, I think it's up in the air tonight. Then the next thing I'm hearing is nothing happened. They weren't able to push through. They're able to hold them. The second that happened, now you start seeing the support from all around. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is with this nuclear action that he's taking, it's actually part of their military program. In other words, once you get that kind of pushback, to get people to go to that negotiating table is that push of saying, hey, we're going to push. Like, it used to happen all the time during the Cold War. If you've ever done any research in the old Cold War stuff,
Right.
they'd move their missiles up, and it happened with Kennedy. It happened. So they moved up to the border and they had their missiles here, and Kennedy was like, give us a foot and we'll give you a foot. And then they called back and said, we'll give you a foot and we'll give you a foot. It's part of that plan to say we have stuff. They're not really arming tactical nukes. In other words, shooting long range countries. They're very, very close range, but that still puts a lot of our allies in the crosshairs. So this is the point when it's really to push. So it gives you, that's the thing I think that is the problem is a lot of people are pushing on him and Putin is getting backed into a corner. And I think the best thing that we should do right now is kind of give him an out. In other words, not just have bringing them to the table and having the discussion, but everybody coming in and saying, look, this can stop tomorrow. If you just pull the bombs back, pull all the stuff back, push it back and rethink the whole situation. And if we give him that out, then no, you don't have to worry about Poland. You don't have to worry about nuclear missiles or all this other stuff, because that's the thing is if they shoot one missile, he gets liquidated. No matter how big and powerful you are, that's the end game. You can't, and he doesn't. The reason I think that he's not hitting Kyiv with all the power he has is because you can't destroy the seat of power. If he destroys that seat, what does he have to take? You got rubble. And I think that's the other reason he's going a little slow in this. But we've had tanks that are literally running out of gas as they come to combat. These every time we see something, it's a huge show of power. It's a flex of muscle. But when we see things like this last missile attack that happened, it seems very random. It doesn't seem like it has the ability to impact something. And that's where I'm kind of torn. Like, I want to kind of agree with you and say we need to really worry because this stuff happened. And on the other side, there's a tactical side of me going, wait a minute, that's part of the plan. Why is he going to the last effort at the very beginning of the fight?
Real quick, we're about 12 minutes in. If you guys love this content so far, please make sure to go down and hit that like button. And if this is your first time over watching the channel, if you love the content here, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. So every time that we drop a video or go live, you guys will be informed. Let me get to some of the chat here. I appreciate Lone Star Watch Collector for being very prevalent in the chat. Thank you so much. So basically, he's saying he has no money. And he says, basically, if you pick two countries, UK, France, Germany, Italy, they will beat Russia. And he's saying Russia is broke. And he's also saying that Russians don't want to fight. They send their young men to fight a war they don't understand. And I think this is a great point. And this is something that I do want to capitalize on a little bit. So what we are hearing and seeing, and this is kind of what you want to hope. So you see the ruble's gone down about 30% today. Okay. Russia's already in kind of disarray with, money problems, feeding, their people, et cetera, et cetera. So if these sanctions are put down, you're crippling the banks that they can get into. Their ruble is, their money is devaluing. What you're hoping is that the citizens turn on Putin. And ultimately, what you really want to have is his military turn on him. And then it just puts an end to this. And then they'll have to figure out, what they're going to do as far as leadership and so forth going forward. Also, he's saying the French and British would crush Russia without our help. Really? Yeah. That's very interesting. So what do you think?
This is the people, the fighters in Russia that are being sent there. From the wording that I'm hearing, were never told that they were fighting the war that they're fighting. They never understood why they were there, what's going on. There's been a lot of them that have just kind of, I don't know if they walked away or if I don't think they joined Ukraine, because that kind of is a flex there that kind of, I don't think they coalesce very well. So, but I do think that there are military individuals that just said, I'm done. I'm out. Some of them they were talking about how they crashed a tank or something and they just got out and said, see ya, we're all done. The thing is there's a lot of protests that are happening in Russia. And every time the protests happen, people have been jailed. They've been pushed down, and like you were saying, any information that they're putting out is being suppressed, or there's some sort of propaganda that's, beating it down. I don't think that enough of that information has to get out to the front for people to truly understand it. Like, the president of Ukraine was having these big conversations on. He's doing these daily things.
Oh, and by the way, that guy's a fucking beast. That
Oh,
guy's
he's
a
a
fucking
monster.
beast.
Did you hear
I
that
mean,
his grandfather there was three brothers. They all went to war. The one came back, and that was his grandfather, and they were Jews that were defending in World War II. So yeah, that dude has some lineage, and he's also an ex-actor too. So that kind of
and
adds
apparently, from what I heard, when he was actually put into office, a lot of the Ukrainian people did not agree with him. But I think now that he's put his feet down and said, "We ain't fucking leave him. We're going to defend our country," he's
yeah.
earned a lot of respect there.
Well, that's the other thing I looked at. So you got him. What's his name? Say it. So let's.
I can't say it right. Yeah.
But the other thing is the mayor is Vitaly Klitschko.
Yeah.
The boxer.
ex-boxer.
So, right. There's somebody that just he's not going to back down, and he's a very slow and methodical person. So a lot of people didn't like his boxing style because he was somebody that kind of paced himself and would wear his opponent down. And that's something that tactically here really plays a key role. So we've got these guys that just, I mean, and the people, the one, did you see the guy the other day that picked up he's like, oh yeah, our troops are coming through. So I got to move this tank mine out of the way. He just goes down and picks it up and walks it over. We were looking at it. I have a friend that knew all about it. He's like, well, thankfully that wasn't armed because that's exactly the way it was. But the idea of this dude not, his best line, he goes, if it was armed, he would be red mist. But he was like, he just walks out there and picks this thing up and puts it, send the tanks through. But that you just, and the other thing is you have to realize what history these guys came through. World War II history, if you've read any of it, especially if I read a couple of books on Chernobyl and that really got me into it, was they were like, a lot of them would be like, hey, I lived through the Russians, I lived through the Nazis, I lived through these guys, and I've lived with my cow and my milk and all this stuff forever. Nothing is going to move me. So these guys are rock solid. And now you got them in a fight where they're like, we have all this history. They're not budging, man. They're going to go down with the ship.
And speaking of sports, FIFA actually came out today and they've kicked Russia out of their program or whatever. Yeah, I don't know much about soccer, but I know that FIFA made an announcement today that they've kicked Russia out of whatever their tournaments or whatever they do. So Russia won't be allowed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whew. So Lone Star Watch Collectors following up says the difference between this and the 1970s is that Russia simply doesn't have the economy to get in the arms race with NATO.
Yeah.
He's also saying the Russian military is technically inferior. And then he's also saying, but they are definitely huge.
Yeah, they're still using basically like artillery rounds the way, you know what I mean? Not as much technology. The way for us today, we send a drone in, the drone does all the work for us. You know, you're not even on the battlefield. But yeah, with their stuff, they're still kind of front line. And like I was saying before, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is when somebody flexes in a combat situation, you tend to wonder how much oomph they really have. You know what I mean? And the idea that they haven't taken Kyiv yet, and the goal that they still say right now is that they need to rush in and do as much as they can. And it's like a football game where it's like we're at the 50-yard line and nobody's budging. But it was weird that when they went to the talks in Belarus that the Russians were complaining they're late, they didn't want to talk. Then they finally have this discussion, and then they're going to bring their stuff back. And then right after they start shelling the area, it's like, do you want to talk? You not want to talk? What's good? I think the big goal would be obviously getting the ceasefire, but I don't think Putin right now can afford it. Right. So like I said, he's getting backed into a corner here. With your thing there, I don't think his military is going to turn on him and change anything. I don't think any coups are going to happen. But like I said, he's got to have an out. We got to give him. We can't corner him in a thing, and because that's the thing is he can box, and I think that there comes a point when you go, hey, I'm going to lose everything, because if he does the wrong thing, the rest of the European Union and all those guys just rush in and we cut your little pieces and go, you have yours and you have your, just like in Germany and World Wars, basically how they split it up and say people have different control of it, and he can't afford that. So because it makes the situation worse. So I mean, just, hey, Putin, you made a mistake. It's okay, man. Just back out. Don't do what you got to do. So
Lone Star's saying I do wonder what this does for Putin's popularity in Russia. It was something like 80%, but I don't believe most polls from. Yeah, I mean, Yeah.
You can't
You know,
count
and the
that.
thing that I have to say too is that I've tried to tend to listen to both sides of the argument here in the United States. You have Democrats and Republicans, and even a lot of Republicans are saying, and this is going towards like Joe Biden. You can't fully blame, or you can't blame Joe Biden for what's going on over in Russia.
No, you can't.
However, you know,
Mhm.
I think one of the things that kind of was a small catalyst, or maybe one of the catalysts, was pulling out of our Keystone Pipeline. I
Right.
think that once that happened, Putin saw an opportunity here to say, well, the U.S. is not going to be energy dependent. They're going to still rely on foreign oil, especially a lot of oil that comes from Russia. We're still, importing that oil as of right now.
Mhm.
I think maybe having some balls or gusto and go back, you open the pipeline, um, not have to take in Russian oil. I think it sinks them a lot more than they already are right now, because you're not giving them any money. And this is the funny thing is that, it was a Republican congressman, I believe, that's running in Texas right now, and had a tweet the other day, and he said, we're pulling Russian vodka from our shelves, but we're continuing to import Russian oil.
Yeah. Well, you were also forgetting that there was a pipeline that was supposed to be authorized that was supposed to cross pollinate, if you will, over into Germany, and that was given to America to give permission to that pipeline to happen. And Putin asked pretty much
And they
every
took it.
president before, and they were all like, no, why would we
Right.
do that? Ukraine is getting money from this pipeline. You're literally finding a way to cut around it. And when Biden came into office, it was like the first, he shut off our pipeline from Canada and then went over to Russia and said, oh, by the way, you guys can have that pipeline. That definitely would show. I mean, if I was over there and I said, look, you just let that ride, you didn't even think about it. How is this going to happen when a military operation comes into play? He's not going to push back. He's
Right.
going to be on our side. And maybe he did give the wrong signals. I think, and God, I hate saying this like this, but let's just say Putin, he looked at Biden. Biden's giving him signals like a girlfriend going, hey, babe, what's going on? You keep hearing the word. She's definitely into you. And the second she comes over and says, hey, we're going to do something, he goes, I never wanted to date you, because now all his other friends are like, you're not dating her,
Right.
are you? And I think that's what happened with Biden. He
Right.
didn't show any strength. He folded the
Right.
second, and Putin put his dice into somebody that,
Right.
folds the second he has any cards. Like, oh, somebody put money in, I'm done with those. So, and like I said, I don't have any partition on that. It's just really right off my head, but just
Right.
makes you think, what is that? What happened?
Yeah, and before I get to some of these chats here in the chat,
Mhm.
and I do appreciate Lone Star, you've been great this on this podcast with us. I do appreciate all those comments, are fantastic. And again, guys, if you haven't already, please go down and smash the like button. We really do appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. We're going to do lots of topics on this channel, not just politics, but we got a lot of different shows lined up. But right now, this is dominating the airways, and it's almost stupid to not talk about this.
Right.
So, again, you were asking me before we came live on the show when I was talking about, taking Russian oil. Are we going to back out, open up the pipeline? It's not going to happen. Psaki already came out, I believe, yesterday or the day before and said, no, we're going to still continue to deal with this. So again, I think it's just some foolish moves here in the US. I think if you're going to go the full load of the sanctions, that we need to come down hard, say that we're going to stand completely against this war in Ukraine. Russia's come into a sovereign country. They're trying to push everybody out. And it's just, it's kind of like the fly in the ointment right now. I think that he's just picking and pecking, going to slowly, methodically keep draining through this country to see how much he can get out of it. If he's successful, I don't know. Again, I'm not skilled in super geopolitics, but I kind of pay attention.
You're talking about Biden taking pieces of us out?
No, I'm saying Putin.
Oh, Putin, yeah. Well, I'm wondering if both of them are doing it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's
like you were saying, like you can't looking at other countries and saying, you guys got to build up your oil. I mean, this is kind of a counter argument, isn't it? That say that those guys have to make more oil, but we're doing it because we're protecting the environment. I don't understand how that works. And then saying, okay, the way we're going to fix is we're going to have an influx of 30 million barrels of oil, which dropped the price down to 30 cents. Well, Now your Russia source is gone. So that 30 cents went away. We still had the inflation to go up. Get ready to pay a lot of fuel costs come,
Oh, I
June,
mean, I was
July.
at the pump today. Premium for me was
Yeah.
408 a gallon.
Right.
I mean, we're gonna see $5 here pretty soon and above.
Right.
So Lone Star Watch Collector saying we're taking about $20 billion a day in oil from Russia. U.S. intelligence played Putin like a cheap fiddle.
Yeah.
They spent weeks intentionally leaking intelligence about the Russian plan in Ukraine, and he's also following up. By the time Russia actually invaded, everyone knew it was going to happen. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we're not stupid. It's a lot of propaganda that's going on. It's a lot of back and forth. With the media nowadays, they can't wait for one shred of news to come out and they're already talking about something. It's not like wars back in the day. The thing that people have to realize too, and I don't think I have to say the thing people have to realize is now, because of the way that the media works, we're in such a 24-hour news cycle that before, back in the 80s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, you had to wait for the 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock news to come on to get a news source. Now, because it's such at the tip of our fingertips all day long, you're getting news instantaneously. So are things really hidden from us now? Is there not ways to find out intelligence? You know what I mean?
And it's the information age. The thing that I saw was crazy was we were watching these cam footages. Wow, Russia spends 20 million in war.
So it's 20 billion, actually. He said 20 billion. So I do apologize. I thought he was talking about importing oil.
But he's going into these cameras. The Russians would come in, they'd see the cameras, and they turn the cameras down so they face down. But even with that, there's been a 24-hour cycle every day of influx of these cameras from inside the city. If you want to know where a plane is, we were getting reports on where drones were in the country, like
where I think the last podcast we did, we had a buddy of yours that was in the chat, and he was saying you literally could watch where strategically boats were being, like, on the marine radars and stuff. Like, this is crazy.
And it makes you think if we really are waging a war, and every war I think we wage is based on information, because information is so dynamic. You can have a plan, but it changes the second the boot hits the ground. This is a time when this information is so dynamic. If you're able to get ahead of it and know what's happening, a lot of times doesn't matter what, and that's where I'm doing. I'm not listening to CNN. I'm not listening to Fox News. I'm not listening to these things, because if you have people that are there that know what's going on and you can get some input on it, all that talking point stuff doesn't matter. You know exactly what's going on, how it's happening, and you start to make these analogies that are more sound than somebody saying a hyperbolic post on YouTube that really is made to draw in people. Like, clickbait is clickbait, and people are going to use it to get your attention and have you vested in something because they don't have 1 million views a day or something like that. And I'd rather just look at somebody and go, look, take this information the way it is. There it is. It's easy to get. Put it in front of you and make an analogous determination of what that means. And that stuff is out there. It's easy to find, and it's real. It's not fake. This is the time when it's impossible for Russia to hide anything from anybody other than their own people. How crazy is that?
Right. We got a couple more minutes before we do wrap up the shows. We only do a 30-minute show here. So I got a parting question. What do you think we see over the next week or two? You think this keeps advancing, or do you think it's still kind of this small arms play that we're doing right now?
It all depends on the actions that are taken by the people. So I think of Putin right now as having a net, and the net is attached to maybe something like a noose, and this net continues to close on him and encircle him, and he can't, as a leader, like I said, he can't put himself in this back and make himself look weak. He has to continue to, he's an old school KGB guy. Weakness is not something that they are accustomed to. They don't like anybody disrespecting them. So when they see that, it's almost like being in the jail, and it's like, hey, find the tallest guy and punch him in the face and hope for the best, right? And the thing is I don't want him to get to that moment where he has to do that or make that stupid move to move ahead. And you, like I said before, you have to give him that out. So I'm hoping that these peace talks do something. I'm hoping that there's pressure from other areas to kind of say, look, yeah, you want these sanctions to stop, It's easy to make him stop and do it in a way that gives him we have to give him a way out that still makes him look like the leader that he is to his people, and not say I made a mistake,
right?
But to say, we took the actions we had, and Ukraine was able to make concessions because of the power and might of Russia, and blah blah blah. And he can say all those talking points, and everything goes away. I don't think that he can fall back and ask for help from China. And if he's there, then that might be a rude awakening. And I don't want that moment to be where we push him in a corner and make him do something stupid. Like try to go to China or try to launch some missile or something. Give him the way out. Give him something that's going to make him look good. And he might close up shop. I think that's feasible. But are we going to do that from our side? And I think the U.S. is smart enough to figure that out. I'm not sure about other areas. So this is a joint effort, and we all kind of fail together or we all succeed together. It is what it is.
So, I think that's a fantastic way to end the show. It just remains to be seen. Obviously we're gonna keep talking about this if it is on the, a trending topic on the radar. It's good to talk about this, get different sides from all aspects. If you're Republican or Democrat, that's what we want to do here. Or if you're just someone on the world stage, or just someone neutral that may have an idea on all of this. Again, I want to appreciate Lone Star Watch Collector this evening to being really interactive in the chat. We love that stuff, guys. I know I had quite a few people watching this evening. Please feel free, leave your comments in the chat. We'll get to them. We'll talk about this stuff. I hope that you guys like the show this evening, and we're going to continue to have more podcasts and open conversations like this. Also, if during the show, I will drop the link. If anybody wants to come on and join us in these discussions, please do. We'd love to have you over here and hear your perspective as well. Again, I'm not saying that I'm any type of person that is expert on geopolitics. I just go off on what I hear and read and give my opinion. Just
we're the real people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basic buddies just having a conversation and talking about this stuff because it needs to be talked about. And again, before I end this podcast, I myself am standing 1,000% behind Ukraine. This war needs to stop. These people need to be free. Let them be, people in their own country. Let's get this war over with and end it so more people don't have to lose their lives. So,
exactly. Yep.
Any parting words, Primo, before we end?
No, that's about it. I think you covered it all.
All right, man. So we're going to hit the outro. Appreciate everybody this evening for sticking around with us. Again, leave your comments after this post. We'd love to see the interaction there. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification. We'll see you guys on the next one. I am Brian. This is Primo, and we'll see you guys. Peace.